Yeah, that's what I do for a living. I'm still a GP, despite the GMC and anybody else. Gets tighter every year. You've got a master's in health informatics. Whee! Thank you very much. Yeah, I don't use it. Clinical strategist for Liverpool Health Partners. I don't know what that means, but they pay me money and I love it, the money bit. Associated with the HSN, although I now discovered they changed the name. Isn't that funny? They asked me to get associated with them and then change the name. We come across that a lot when you work for the Child Support Agency. You lot, just speed up, come on. We've got time to do. I've just been awarded honorary life membership with the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic Society for 25 years service as medical advisor. That's not relevant, I'm just really proud about it. Okay. And I play the saxophone in my spare time. Difference between a baritone sax and a lawnmower. Nobody complains when you start your lawnmower on a Sunday morning. So what will connected health cities do for us, as Monty Python didn't say? Well, to be frank, although my name's Chris, probably nothing for an awful lot of people, do you know? Because an awful lot of people won't want to change. An awful lot of mum and pop corner shops in general practice will remain mum and pop corner shops in general practice till they get taken over. We might actually see quite a change in the way the services are delivered. I'm just going to move because it makes it harder for the headshot, should there be snipers on the balconies. But also it's a real nightmare for the cameraman and they just like winding them up. Yeah. It's going to change how services are delivered, for sure, because with that kind of information that we're going to get out of this, how could it not? But perhaps more interestingly, from my point of view, I think it's going to change how we think of the population. I'm optimistic that we're going to see more better management of complex conditions. Now, see, that was a very medic thing to call it. I call it a complex medical condition. My patients call it life. Okay, and right now 50% of the patients in Kirkby believe they have no control over their life. So we're starting with a really tough gig, tougher audience than you lot. An example of how tough it is. The other day I checked the temperature on a young child using my no-touch infrared, CQC compliant, coming next year thermometer, right? And I said to the mum, have you got a thermometer? And she said, no. I said, well, the really useful things. She said, where did you get yours from? I said, I ordered it off Amazon, it's about 30 quid. And then she says, well, why don't you give me that one and you order another one off Amazon? I love my population in Kirkby. I'm really pleased to be recognised by some people as a Kirkbyite. I'll prove my qualifications later on for that. Yeah, I think we're going to see more in the way of problems and solutions being joined up. Now this, if it projects halfway well, right? This is the reality of my existence as a general practitioner. We've done access, right? Tick the box on access. We now have contact with 40% more patients on a weekly basis than we did under our old model of general practice. We've moved on. Now we're doing this, long-term conditions. Two dimensions to look at for patients, and some of you who've seen me spiel before will know activation and need, okay? So we have patients with significant high levels of need and low levels of activation. And those people, I've told you this before, it doesn't matter. What are we going to do about it? Well, the answer is, if you've got a high level of need and a high level of activation, then it doesn't really matter who you see. If you see the best person on the planet for your condition, you'll take it on board, internalise it and do something with it. These professional patients are fantastic. They're the diabetics with normal HbA1c values. They're the people who actually, when you say, look, you need to do this, you know darn well they've done it. They will do it. They've got a high level of need, but they're doing everything they can to manage themselves. At the other end of things, you've got people with a low level of need, but a high level of activation. We used to call them the worried well. Okay, and we're obliged as general practitioners to look after the worried well. Now those individuals, if you give them something, they'll consume it. If you don't give them something, they'll still consume it. These are the people who ring up just on the off chance. These are the mums who ring me up at 9:30 saying, he's not been well since this morning. You say, well, when this morning? Oh, well, since I tried taking him to school at 9:15. Have you given him anything? No. I thought I'd wait and see you, because you can't be too careful. These people have got high level of activation when it comes to getting hold of health and using resource, but they need some support about what to do with it. And when it comes to long-term conditions, most of the time, we give them a one-size-fits-all practice nurse-led long-term medical conditions service, which basically says you're a heart, you're a lung, you're whatever, and we treat people accordingly. What we'd like to do is introduce, funnily enough, HealthPal. Sat down on that thingy over there, the fourth BG. Give us a wave, Ray. There you go. There's no money in me calling him a BG, but my practice and him are working on a piece of kit called Health Pal, which is a way of saying to patients, okay, this is where you are. Where do you want to be? Not with health, but with life. What do you want to do in life? How is your health going to get in the way? How can we help you get your health out of the way of doing what you want to do? Now, of course, when you talk to people in the NHS and say, no, not everybody's going to use that, my granddad, whatever. You know the score. So, okay, fair enough. Those people have got a high level of need and low level of activation. We're working with a community group called Northwood Together to say, well, can we train people to be volunteers for health, to work alongside those people whose activation levels are low, to help them move up a little bit, to be able to use systems. Funnily enough, we decided to call them Health Pals. See what we did there, hey? If it works, it'll be pretty interesting for us. The reason why I'm excited about Connected Cities is if we come to assess activation and need, then we're either going to have to do it by a shed load of questionnaires or by mining the data to find some proxies for activation and need. Number of appointments attended, DNAs, whatever, how proactive people are in terms of their diet, their exercise, what they're doing, gym membership, is that an indicator for activation? I don't know. If we're going to do assessing their progress, how are we going to do that? Where we're going to have to keep ringing them up, or are we going to find some IT system that says this is how much better off this person is? All the time it's going to come down to either a whole load of legwork, which is going to fail, or getting hold of the data the quick and easy way, which is going to work. Problem is, though, that's only two dimensions, need and activation. Okay, what happens when we get connected health cities and the number of dimensions we're dealing with is almost infinite? That's going to be really challenging. When we're thinking about people, not just how actively involved in their care they are and how much need they've got, but when we're thinking about people's genomic background, when we're thinking about their history, their lifestyle, their habitat, their finances. A cracking bit of data from Keith and the guys at Aintree was around, it's not what you go in with, it's where you come from that decides how long you're in Aintree when it comes to liver disease. How should that change how a junior doc, as long as it's not 1st of December, admits somebody to hospital? How should that change it? Would we need a different package of care because we know where they live? Well, probably is the answer. Their finances. My patient with the stethoscope deal, we did actually go on Amazon and have a look at cheaper stethoscopes and came up with one that fits into a Dodi. It's a £5 if you want one, not on commission. But looking at those multiple dimensions of the individual will change how we as individual clinicians are going to relate to our population in a way that we've never done before. First consultation I ever did back in Kirby, I might have told you this before, just look at the pictures on the wall if you're bored. I whipped out, pre-internet days, whipped out a detailed cross-section of the lady's pelvis. I was going to explain what was going on with her, and she looks at me and goes, "Save your breath, doc, thick as pig shit." I did wonder, me or her was she talking about? I don't know. Anyhow, bottom line is now the population has changed. We're now dealing with people who come in saying, "I've read this, I understood that, I Googled it, I know I shouldn't." No, I tell them, go ahead and Google. Difference between you and me is I know what I found on Google. It's okay. Bring it in to me, we'll talk about it. But when we're looking at those kind of dimensions, we're going to need a different way of working and thinking about how people get their health looked after. Interesting bit of trivia for you here. My practice sees 70% of its long-term medical condition population in 12 months. The A&E sees only 15% of my patients in 12 months. That's a lot, right? With long-term conditions, that's a lot. The outpatients see 30% of my long-term medical condition population in 12 months. That's unsustainable. Trouble is, those people who are seeing Keith in outpatients, when you say to them, "Who's your doctor?" they'll say, "Dr. Bodger's my doctor, because I've got," and they'll insert name of complex condition here. The downside with that is when the problem goes wrong, they don't come to me, they go back to where he works at the hospital. It's crazy. So the future world, the world that, that part of my brain inhabits on a regular basis, will be significantly different. Minority Reports. You've seen the film with Tom Hanks, yeah? interacting with the data on the visual screen, fantastic. But just like them, we're going to get conditions and circumstances where the rules don't fit and the individuals are odd. So the 90-year-old lady who's going to make it to 100, but everything else we calculate tells us that she's only going to make it to 91. I want a discussion about her end of life and preferred place of care, and she wants to go cycling. I may have an issue there about the data, we'll see. There may be a bit about how I stop being a purveyor of medicine and start becoming a purveyor of information. And the folly about that is if you think the information's right, you're probably wrong. There may be a bit about how we become soothsayers, either because we can predict the future to absolute certainty and then it doesn't turn out the way we predicted it, or because we say it's probably going to be like this and that isn't strong enough for the individual to change, in which case we're ignored until it's too late. Big problem for the NHS is we like to pay people for what they've done, whereas I want to be a Time Lord and get paid for what I haven't done, the things that you can't measure, the things that didn't happen. So if my population ceased using hospital services, which would be great, then, and nobody dies, which wouldn't be so good, thinking about it long term. But you get my point. The NHS can't work its brains out as to how to reward people for how different the world's going to be. Within the next 2 years, you'll stop being a patient at Wingate Medical Centre, you'll be a member of Wingate Medical Centre. And the deal will be that we will offer you things which if you want, you can take on board. If you don't want, you don't have to take on board. That's okay. But forgive us if we mine the data and it turns out your body mass index is 35 and we've got some Weight Watchers vouchers for free. We might offer you them. Don't get offended, just saying. The change is going to be really stunning for some people. We did that by the way, bit of research. There was a study called RAP, which was weight reduction. It meant that as a practice, we got access to Weight Watchers vouchers for 12 weeks and 52 weeks. That's a huge amount of money if you pay for Weight Watchers, right? So we wrote out to all our 2,000 patients with significant body mass index, and we only had 4 people ring up and say, this is ridiculous, I don't weigh that anymore. And we said, tell us what you do weigh, and we'll put it in the computer. It's great, win-win. Shift for me is, if you're going to be a member of our practice, I'm going to be a partner in your care. And that's going to be a significantly different way of working. Anybody here got a GP on Merseyside? Yeah, cool. So that means your GP uses the EMIS Web system. Anybody here downloaded patient access from EMIS Web onto their iPhone? No, it's a doddle. Do it and download it, and then when you do, tick the box that says, I want my health data to be synchronized with my GP. Because every little bit of health data that Apple collects on this, about my watch, swanking, every bit of data it collects is available to my GP, so my GP can think, well, I wonder what his blood pressure was, and then have a look at it. On the last time I took my own blood pressure, which I did when I was relaxed, sitting at home watching the telly or something like that. I was disappointed, can I say, gutted, that we haven't had a presentation from people from Barcelona. So this is as close as you're going to get. This is a waiting room, the A&E waiting room at the Ribera Salud Hospital in Alzira, in Spain. This is 4:30 on a Friday afternoon. Now, eagle-eyed people, right? Eagle-eyed people might spot there's something missing. No, this is not the set of a DayZ movie. This is not post-apocalyptic. That's what it's like. The reason it's like that is, see those screens hanging over the top there? They give the waiting time at the 4 primary care-based urgent care centres dotted around the city. Because there's another sign, the big sign in the middle which you can't see, which more or less says, I translated it, it's written in Spanish obviously, so I translated it, and I think it said something like, you will wait till hell freezes over if you walked into this department. Something like that, vaguely, Spanish, whatever. This, anybody recognise this? Nope, good. It's a readout from the Philips Vital Signs app, free to download. And you point the camera at yourself, or sometimes other patients, and it reads your pulse, and it reads your respiratory rate. It reads your pulse from micro-flushings in your skin. Fascinating. So if I was building a new hospital, I don't know, in Liverpool, for instance, I'd put like a camera like that above the bed, so it kind of like read the pulse of the patient and the respiratory rate automatically in the room, kind of a thing. Don't know, just thinking differently. I don't know if they've done it. It'd be really interesting. Oh, right. Quick apology in the last couple of slides. Why did I put the art in? Did anybody work that one out? You know, all that sort of red thing. The answer really is because it's a nice theme in the Mac, okay? But I thought I'd use it as make a point. Where we're going with this Connected Health Cities, the data that we get out of this, and Keith touched on this, is going to be complex. It's going to be different. It's going to require new ways of thinking, looking at the data. One of the ways that I know the Hartree Centre deals with is visualization of data. As human beings, we're really good at processing visual data. You know, you don't need to see a picture of a tiger for very long to suss it's a tiger. We don't see them around this country very more, but we're still very programmed to recognize those patterns and process them. Problem with that is, anybody can look at a picture of modern art and come up with two different interpretations. Okay? And where we're starting with this, we're not starting with the finished Picasso. We're starting with work more akin to my daughter's picture on the left there, the blue one, which is a picture of me, apparently. There you go. And certainly not like Picasso's first picture on the right, which is Picasso's Picador, I think it is, picture. It's not going to be perfect when it starts. Okay, I like the idea of inhabiting the future. I know where we're going with it. I can see how it's going to work, see how it's going to work for me, work for my patients. I get that. But I think we have to be realistic here. We're going to be turning out very, very early Picassos in the first instance. Not everybody's going to get it, and a few people are going to hate it. That's it. Thanks. Any questions?